Good morning. Welcome to Saturday of Charleston Race Week. We're here with Shay Gibson from SailFlow Weather, Leandro Spina from Olympic Development Program. And we'll also have, hopefully, Tommy Harkin joining us from local Charleston knowledge. I'll turn it over to Shay for this morning's forecast.
Great. Thank you, Libby. Once again, thanks for having me on. I'm always a pleasure to represent from SailFlow in partnership with Charleston Race Week and Quantum Sales. Let's go ahead and do share screen, get back to the slide deck here. First of all, housekeeping rules this morning. Let's pull that up. I'm just going to share the content. Make sure, Libby, can you see? Is everything okay? Can you see that?
Screen share? Good.
Okay, good. Making sure. Housekeeping rules this morning. If we do have questions, please ask. I'm always happy to field the Q&A at the end of the segment. So if you have questions about the course, you have questions about the wind, the weather, anything like that, please put it in the chat. I'm happy to look at those as we get to the end here. Going to our speakers today, again, Tommy Harkin. Hopefully we join us this morning. I know he was having some technical issues getting on, but maybe he'll hop in a little bit and talk a little bit more about currents. I know we covered that Thursday at the 6 p.m. update, and then yesterday morning we covered the current as well. Today's primarily going to be the forecast update with a little bit of current talk. Shameless plug for SailFlow. The pro membership is active for the Charleston area for everybody who wants to look at it on the app. All functions are available for free for everybody, including our pro forecast that we have daily at 7 p.m. and updated each morning at 7 o'clock a.m. Quick look at the tides today. Looks like we're going to have high tide iteration right around 6 feet, just below 6 feet, and dropping down to 0. So only about a 6-foot surge for the flood later, but this is going to be primarily an ebb. As you can see, the swing goes all day long. We take a look at the tide information for Saturday. It looks like we have max ebb at 128. Our ebb begins at 9:14. So Tommy did speak to this on Thursday, where this is primarily going to be an ebb tide type of environment, especially for circles 1, 2, and 3 inside the harbor. That's favorable for those, especially on a southwest wind cutting across the course. So a little bit more of a right wind today, and we're going to look at the visible satellite right now. Looks like we've got some showers developing on the Florida Hatteras Slope offshore over the Gulf Stream, and that's typical where that salinity factor is a little bit higher on one side and lower on the other. Our 500 millibar, 18,000 foot winds are from the northwest, which is somewhat favorable for sea breeze circulation. So it looked a little more favorable for a stronger build today, but it looks like we're going to hold modest values for the most part and not get into the moderate values unless we're inside the harbor. The offshore folks are going to need to know about this, so we'll cover that in just a little bit. That just means usually a west wind for our sea breeze circulations help develop the sea breezes a little bit stronger, especially if you have winds coming into the coast from the south. And then you have a westerly upper flow that pushes those winds for the return flow offshore and then back into the coast that completes the circulation. But from the northwest, it's a little bit more challenging because the wind's coming in from one direction and then the return flow is trying to come down from this direction. It sort of makes the sea breeze, if you think about it three-dimensionally, it makes it more of an oblong shape towards the north, and that limits its capacity or ability to build stronger. So let's take a look at SailFlow for right now. This morning, a lot of folks early on get a little bit fooled by what's called nocturnal jetting. And so if you woke up early this morning about 6:30, you saw winds about 12 to 13 knots with gusts into the mid to upper teens, and especially overnight, we saw gusts into the 20s along Isle of Palms and Folly Beach. And that basically is an inversionary type of environment where when you have a frontal boundary, as we do to our north, sometimes at nighttime, you'll get what's called a nocturnal inversion. So latent heat aloft comes down to the surface and it couples convectively over the area, so you end up with a stronger wind. Now in the summertime, when our sea surface temperatures are warmer, you see this convective coupling occur, and you can almost see a mirror image of what happened overnight into the daytime. However, with our cooler sea surface temperatures, it's just not going to materialize in this manner. I think, especially inside the harbor at Chutes Folly, we saw those winds a little bit less. So we're looking at 9 to 13 knots inside the harbor versus the higher winds along the barrier islands. That's typical as well. This is probably more likely what's going to occur today. And the winds are coming back around. They were southwest. Now they're starting to back more from the south. And then this afternoon, I'm fairly confident we're going to get that south-southwest sea breeze versus what the models are showing here, simply because we have heating, and then we also have that northwest flow aloft. And I think that's going to be enough to tilt those winds from the south-southwest. So most models in agreement with south, but at race start, again, we're looking at lighter winds, almost like yesterday, 5 to 9 knots. As we get towards midday, we're looking at a little higher in the 7 to 11 knots ranges, and then 8 to 12. We could end up with 10 to 14 along the immediate coast, and inside the harbor, I think we're going to have a similar call like we saw yesterday afternoon. We saw those winds come up to 10 to 14. I think we're going to have a repeat of that today. 10 to 14 knots is going to be the call for from 12 to 2 or 12 o'clock after for race courses 1, 2, and 3. Offshore, I still think we're going to hold a little bit lighter winds. We have the Corp buoy out here showing 8 knots now from the south-southwest. I think we're going to probably cap between 8 and 12 knots offshore. So still a little bit better of an outlook than yesterday. We were only calling for 4 to 8 or 5 to 9, somewhere in that range offshore. We might get up to 8 to 12 today. It's a little bit better. It's just when the sea breeze comes from that south-southwest direction, that's what we're typically going to see. Looking at the WPC, the rationale behind this is this high pressure, still jogging very slowly east towards Bermuda, bringing up the isobars or the isotachs, more or less, coming up from the south eventually through the day. So it's looking just a slightly more robust, and even yet just a little bit more robust for tomorrow. And I'll talk about that after we check in with Leandro here. Go ahead and pass the ball to you, Leandro. What did you see yesterday on the course? You guys were running the drones, right? Did you see anything out of the ordinary for the forecast? It looked pretty straightforward out there.
Thank you, Jay. No, you were spot on yesterday. It was a pretty straightforward day regarding the conditions, and yeah, the conditions, it was really hard to execute, but it was pretty straightforward. It looks like today we're looking for a similar situation where, light breeze and current. So the tip of the day is match your strategy with your confidence level. Those teams and sailors that are confident on reading the conditions, the geometry of the course, and their confidence to execute, they will be strong. We know that. That's always the case. But what about those that have a little, the suggestion for them is to do the homework before the race. Ask yourself, where is the longer tag to the first mark? And then with 3 minutes to go or 2.5 minutes to go, position yourself in a low density area of the starting line, not too far from the action. But the goal is to have a clear lane, go in the right way, and go fast for the first 2-3 minutes of the race. You're not going to be on the leading pack, but what we learned yesterday, and probably I'm expecting to be similar, is there will be hard to have passing lanes, but teams will make mistakes. Opportunities will arise. Groups of boats sailing together, they will slow each other down, or they will have a tendency to sail extra distance. So the race is not over until it's over. Be patient, have fun, and I'll see you later today.
Great, thank you, Leandro. Appreciate that. Any final thoughts? I don't see any questions on for right now, but as far as tomorrow goes, I'll go back to share screen for the SailFlow map. Let me pull that up. For tomorrow, I'm betting about the same now. The model guidance for tomorrow really kind of holds the forecast in place, but with that high slowly jogging off to the east, I still think we're going to have a little more oomph for tomorrow afternoon than what the models are showing, and simply because the direction of the wind. So if you remember on the slides where we talked about offshore versus inshore, we have those thermals, right? So usually when the sea surface temperatures are much cooler, this event is usually like the first week or two of April. So the sea surface temperatures are about 8 to even 10 degrees higher than what they normally would be. So I kind of like that because you have a little bit more coupling with the winds for the offshore courses, which is why there's more. If this were early April, it'd probably be 2 to 6 knots out there as far as yesterday goes. So that's not a bad thing. But the map, remember this, where that wind tilts more from the south-southwest, the more westerly element you get, the more of this thermal induction you get across the harbor. And so that's why I'm saying 10 to 14 knots today inside the harbor. If we get a couple of extra 12 to 16, it's not out of the question, but probably won't be till after 2 o'clock. Usually we see that bump start about mid to late afternoon and into the evening, then it fades out as it turns a little bit more southwest. But pretty straightforward today, and I don't think I have any other material to go over. I know that the temperatures today are going to be very pleasant. We're looking at mid 80s, probably low to mid 80s, especially those areas like off the water, get a little bit cooler over the water. And then also no rain for today. Might see a few clouds. Looking back at the visible satellite, we have some upper cirrus, maybe some mid-level stratus building in a little bit from time to time, but most of those are cirrus clouds up high. We could see some cumulus pileups inland along that sea breeze front as it pushes in. So you may see a cloud line develop. If you do, that just signifies where the sea breeze front is starting to push ashore, but it's not going to really affect the winds as of right now. That might be more tuned into tomorrow when the moisture profile builds a little bit more. We start to get into where we get showers and storms, isolated showers and storms building in mid to late afternoon into the evening. But outside of that, Libby, I think that's a wrap for today, unless there are any other questions from the audience. I think that's good. And everybody have a great day out there. And I'll be out. I know I'm going to be joining Leandro and Greg here in a little while and going out the drones and checking that out. So I love doing the sideline feature some years. Last year I was actually in the race, which was great. But I have equal fun doing all events. So
Fantastic.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you both. It's wonderful to have you here. And we will be hosting a dock talk for J70 after racing today. Come have some refreshments and hot pretzels and snacks on a dock. And we'll see you at 6 o'clock on the beach for Leandro's debrief. Have a great day out there. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.